Hi, I'm Karen Hurd, and I'm here with our next edition of Asking for a Friend Live. And I have a very special show for you today, a topic we have not talked about before, which is what are young people really looking for as they're considering their careers? And I have some wonderful guests who are very, very much aligned with our Courageous Cultures work, Todd Smith and John Batcher, and they are with an organization called Symphony Workforce. And so, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Karen.
How are you?
Great. I'm so glad to have you here. It's interesting. I got introduced to these guys because they are doing something very similar to the work we do in organizations around our Courageous Cultures work of tapping into the very best ideas of employees and having a process to do that. They are doing this with youth. 12 to 25-year-olds, getting them involved, helping them work and be exposed in companies. And I'm going to let them tell you all about that. But I couldn't wait to get them on the show. As soon as I met them, we booked the gig the next day. So thank you so much. So Todd and John, I'd love for you just to start by telling people a little bit about your why, your background. Why did you get involved in this? And why is this so important to you?
First of all, thank you for having us on. We felt very similar about you when we first met you, that this was a match. And so I'm just a kid from St. Paul, Minnesota. I grew up with a mother who was a superintendent, father who was in mental health, a brother who ended up playing NFL football for 8 years. I grew up around an alpha table, where the one thing that was constant was, one, you had love, but two, you had to give max effort, and then everything else would take care of itself. Very urban mindset. I knew my history. I knew America's history. And so that was the paradigm that I looked at life through. Then I had a really amazing experience. God moved my path, and I went to the University of South Dakota, and I met a bunch of guys that I fell in love with that became brothers of mine that were from towns of 20 and 100 and 1,000 people. And I realized that in loving them and loving their families, that they had a different struggle, but they still had struggle as well. And so my paradigm as a person started where I looked at life as a coin, and the coin was access. On one side of the coin was looking at access from the urban side of thinking to myself, hey, do I have authentic access to opportunities? And when I looked at it from the rural side of my days in South Dakota and learning these families and whatnot, I realized that their side of that access coin was, do I have enough opportunities to have access to? And so as that went on, I went into tech and went into education. And I just realized that if we were going to move economies, it started with people. It started with young people. We had to figure out a way to get young people authentic and high frequent opportunities, to figure out what their why was, why they were built as people. And once you can do that, they'll climb any hill. But until you can do that and build that trust with them and validate them and to affirm them on how God built them, it doesn't work. And so subsequently, the economy doesn't move at scale. And so I started my own company. Then I bumped into John. We met we were introduced over a cup of coffee. And that was one of the pivotal days. I look back when I'm 85 years old and on a rocker, that I met John Batcher, and we shared so much in common, but had enough differences to realize that we needed to go tackle this big problem together. And then off we went.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your powerful story. John, I would love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, no, thanks. And thanks for having us, Karen. So my story is different than Todd's. I'm the guy that he met when he went to college, and he grew up in pavement. I grew up on a dirt road in West Central Nebraska. And, my lens was pretty narrow around farming and what you could do in farming. And when I realized that it wasn't going to work out for me to farm, all of a sudden I felt like I had to play catch up. And so I kind of scrambled and took as many internships as I possibly could to expose myself to as many different opportunities and industries and careers as I possibly could as I started in through my college career in Lincoln. And, that really opened my aperture to what was out there. And it really opened a lot of doors for me in meeting a lot of people, in seeing what they were doing that was innovative, that was really kind of cutting edge. And it opened those doors for me. So I knew that I had at least some options to walk through. And so I tried to increase the number, to use Todd's language, I tried to increase the number of opportunities to access this thing called a career. And ultimately, that led me to a lot of work in the startup and turnaround fields. And it was everything from heavy industrial moving to children's educational toys. But regardless of the business that I was able to put my hands on and have some fingerprints on, what I found the common connector to be was people. And if we could get great people together around even an average idea, oftentimes we could make it blossom and make it grow. But if we didn't have that right mix of people, it just would never take off. And so bringing the right group of people was that common denominator. And when I met Todd, we shared that same love of people. We shared that same love of helping people align their talents and with what they wanted to invest their time in. And so that was kind of the outgrowth of Symphony and our Find the Why platform. And really, our lives have leaked into this, both intentionally and unintentionally. I don't think there's any way that founders cannot put their fingerprints on their business without really having their past life and bringing their past experiences to it. And so for Todd to have one lens and me to have another has been a huge asset for us as we begun working to impact these young people across the nation. We've worked with kids in 41 different states. And, to your point, Karen, they all have an interest in what's next. But I think oftentimes in answering that question of what do they want in their career, they maybe get painted generationally as a broad brush, or by economic status with a broad brush, or by racial background with a broad brush. And while sometimes that's true, and I think a lot of big, well-intending companies, McKinsey and all these others who do these great surveys, are well-meaning and well-intending, but in some ways they take the individual out of it. And that's what we're bringing back, is that each person, regardless of their background, no matter where they're coming from, is an individual, and they're uniquely gifted and they're uniquely talented and uniquely created. And how do we uniquely align them then in the workspace? And so I think that's a hallmark of what we're trying to do, but it's really an outgrowth of Todd's background and my background.
Oh, thank you so much. So if you are just joining us, we are here today talking about what do young people want as they're considering what is their why, what are they going to do next as they enter the workforce. And here with a couple of experts who are really going to share with us some of the important work that they're doing. So Todd and John, I would just love for you to share a little bit about your approach here, how you're doing this, because I think it is really fascinating how you're marrying corporate needs of where people really need great ideas, right, and bringing youth in to weigh in and consider those ideas, and what are the benefits for the kids who are participating in this program?
So to answer that question, I'm going to take you and anyone who's viewing this back to your 16-year-old self, right? So when you were in school and your whole life was moving at 100 miles per hour until the moment you walked into the school building and it slowed down to 5 miles per hour, right? Because school is there to teach you the basic building blocks of what to know, right? And so in today's world, kids, because of this crazy thing we have, it's a cell phone, the what they have access to, it becomes the how, right? And so if you go back to your 16-year-old self and you say, if 6 times a year, you could go out onto a platform and companies from all over the globe were going to submit their problems to you so that you could say, oh, you know what? I'm tired of being asked the question of, where do I want to work when I'm older? I don't know. I'm 16 or I'm 18 or I'm 25. Well, what's the name of the job you want to do? Once again, I don't know. I don't have access to all the different jobs and backgrounds of companies. I don't have any context to answer that. Okay, we start with the better question of, what kind of problems do you like to solve? And kids get to do that, like I said, 6 times a year, which tallies up to about 50 days worth of this in-depth interaction with problems. And as kids solve problems, they go, either I like it or I don't like it. And there's where the rubber meets the road. And if they decide, hey, I like it, then as they move through, they're competing for things such as we have $10,000 worth of cash on the line. So that usually brings them in from the get-go. But as they go through our 7-day challenge, right, we keep it in small bites, they start to tick off things. Oh, I'm taking these assessments and learning about myself, so I better understand where I want to go. And the more I say I like this and more of this hill I climb, then all of a sudden, more things come to me, and we call this, Karen, the right resource at the right time. So as soon as I say I like something, then all of a sudden something else comes to me, meaning a post-secondary scholarship for one class to see if I still like it, a possible paid internship to see if I like that company. I get to understand companies' cultures. So anytime as a young person, we give the power to them. They can stop right mid-competition. They can go to the end and say I didn't like it, but they'll know in 45 more days, another opportunity is going to come along. If we meet them where they are in this thumb-dominated culture of platforms, right? So when they're on TikTok, going through TikTok or going through Instagram, one click over is our app. And they know when they go there, they get these authentic opportunities. They get to work with experts as advisors that are from companies, right? And so kids want honest feedback. They're not looking to be placated. They're not looking to be talked down to. They want to have an authentic, big challenge. They want expert advisors, and they want to do it a lot so that they're done looking at education as this two-dimensional third period class with a book, or this hands-on experience of, hey, build this bridge, let's see how much force we can put on it. They want to know I'm solving social issues, whether they are, how do kids go back to school during the COVID era? Whether it's how do you solve school shooting? Whether it's take 10% of the weight out of this combine that ships to 5 different continents, right? Whether it's change Chick-fil-A's, the material in their cup, or we're going to go out of business at Chick-fil-A. There's all these different things out there that they will attack. And when they attack those problems, they solve what they start to want to become. And then the road gets clear, and then industry and education meets them there. So it's an amazing process. I'll let John walk you through the kind of the brick and mortar of how our platform works. But at its essence, we want young people to have experiences as often as possible with dynamic people to figure out where they want to go.
Yeah, thank you so much. So John, I would love for you just to give us the cliff notes, like of how does this thing work?
Sure.
And then we're going to go to our first question from Dave Gregory there. So
Yeah, absolutely. So really what Todd is touching on is the student-driven aspect, and we wanted to make sure that the platform incorporated that. But what we want to do even more is we want to give this thing called data back to our young people, back to the participants on the platform, because what we've realized is as companies, we're always asking for data. We're asking, we want data to make better decisions, and we've heard this for decades. But what we've seen on the opposite side is we're not giving our young people better data in many cases and helping them make better decisions. And so that's kind of one of the underlying pillars of the platform is how do we help give them data and arm them with data to make better decisions. And so when a young person comes onto our platform from findthewhy.org, they drop in and they can select their challenge. They then get to add their teammates, up to 3 teammates to their team as they work through this 7-day challenge. They also get to add up to 5 advisors, and those advisors come from the companies themselves. So Chick-fil-A provides advisors, or OPPD provides advisors, and a pool of advisors that we provide. But also it gives the young person a chance to invite, maybe it's an aunt or an uncle or mom or dad or somebody in their life who's been influential, and they want to help have them help mentor through the process. And so these advisors come on and they help as mentors in this process. So over 7 days, they work through a roadmap of questions. And as a team, they begin answering those questions. And you begin to see this cool to and fro between advisors and the students that they're mentoring. And after 7 days, they submit, the teams submit their answers. And they also submit a video. We recognize that not everybody communicates well in the written form. And so some just are able to stand and deliver their pitch. And so we give the students the opportunity to do that. And then we ask them some questions on the way out about what they thought about the challenge, what they thought about the company. And this is all in the name of gathering some data for both of those parties, but it's also in the name of building this really rich, Todd mentioned, three-dimensional look at what a student maybe resume, if you will, or transcript could look like from Find the Why. And so that happens over a course of 7 days, and it happens about 6 times a year. And so that's the fundamental basics of the platform. At the end, there's also an opportunity for young people to say, hey, I like this challenge. This was a good thing. And then we work with a growing list of post-secondary partners to provide a scholarship. Todd mentioned right resource at the right time. Why not offer a young person a scholarship, a view to the educational race they're going to have to run to get to the corporate job that they just saw or the career that they just saw? Why not offer them that educational pathway too? And so offering them that opportunity for a certificate of completion course. Maybe it's a full college credit 3-hour course. But we offer them that so they know that there is this pathway to get there. And for those that aren't going to college, or maybe they say, hey, 2 years for me, great. Those are great answers. Companies want to know that. And so the young person can indicate that as well. And then we can push offers to them through our system from the companies that are sponsoring the different challenges or the different problems, so that the young people can see, hey, this opportunity for an internship exists, or these careers exist if I decide to come straight out of high school right into the workforce. So we respect that it's a different path for a lot of different folks. And we want to encourage that regardless of the problems that they like to solve or the career they're looking for.
I love it. And I know in talking to you over the last couple of weeks that you're all about getting access to people who might not, giving access to people who might not have exposure or access naturally. And what I absolutely love is there is no cost to students at all. If you are I know we have some college students and head of student affairs chiming in. It is free for the kids, right? And you get so much information. You get a DISC assessment. Like that's what I think is really, really neat. So no matter where you are in the world, you can participate in this program. So thank you very much. We do have a couple of questions coming in, and so I want to start with Dave Gregory. Dave, thanks for joining us. Can you share more about the challenges and how the businesses you work with benefit from the challenges?
So that's a great question. So think of the funnel and the challenge that businesses have. So we're in Nebraska. Nebraska is under 3% unemployment and yet has 50,000 jobs open, right? That's this flux that a lot of the country's in. And so when you take that perspective and you're a business doing traditional HR through different websites and job boards and traditional career fairs, you can't solve the problem. You're always behind the sticks. And so we open up the aperture for everyone. So if you're a kid in Utah and you happen to love manufacturing and you loved outdoors, how would you ever know to get to CNH that's headquartered, that's in 5 different states in America, but also on 5 continents? How would they know about you? So through our platform, every HR office, every business has access to every kid in the United States, really on the globe for that matter, because you can get to our platform. So if we look at the funnel and say, hey, I've submitted a problem as a business, how many kids took our challenge? Well, there's 1,000 kids that took that challenge over 7 days. Great. How many of those kids said they liked the challenge and our culture after it was over? Oh, that's 500. Okay, then tell me how many of those kids through the DISC assessment had this kind of makeup? Oh, that's 200 kids. How many of those kids said that they would work inside of a distance they would travel to relocate to where I live or where we work? Oh, that's 150 kids. Perfect. How many of those 150 kids were offered a scholarship and then showed the grit to take the class? Oh, that's 75 kids. Perfect. I want to engage those 75 kids because now I have this great spend and return into my company for virtual internships, for swag, for post-secondary scholarships. There's that kind of ROI for industry they can get nowhere else. But the flip is true too. The same funnel works for the young person. And so we open up access, but our equation for business, when smart leaders hear that, they love it. They're done with the traditional career fairs. They're done with saying, hey, I got to hire more people to go out to a school system, that go away from what they do as their core business and talk to kids for 45 minutes in a class period that aren't good at talking to kids, or B, can't, the message just doesn't resonate. And so they're starting to come to us in droves to have that kind of conversation to get that kind of business ROI.
You know, Todd, I'll add to that a little bit that one of the things we see is really a shift in spend, and it's a smarter spend for businesses. If they're still wanting to do those traditional methods, that's great. But we're seeing companies shift their spend because they're recognizing that their talent pipeline from a talent acquisition standpoint has to be elongated. They have to smooth out these highs and lows in talent and hiring. And so they're going to do that by extending that platform or extending their pipeline down into these younger grades and making that shift in spend to attract and put their brand in front of these young people earlier and often, which is a huge benefit for these young people because they're now getting the benefit of being able to see these different careers that they could possibly be. And so it's really a win-win for corporations and the economics that are behind that, but also for these young people who have different demands than the previous generation. I mean, they want to be met, like Todd mentioned, on this thumb-dominated platform. They want to be met where they are, and they have different workforce needs as they're going forward than the generation before.
Very, very good. Thank you. We have a few more questions. So Lee Pemberton is asking, how are students and companies chosen for this program?
Well, it's kids choose us, right?
Okay.
So you've heard John say this phrase a lot, right? We empower the student to make the decision. Are there problems here that you want to solve? And if so, come solve them with us, right? On the business side, it is the business leaders that say, we have to go about engaging kids in a better, smarter way. And this gets us in front of them in their natural vehicle, right? There's a really big push around equality right now, right? In America's coming to this reckoning. One thing that young people tell us all the time is, I don't want to be treated special. I want to be treated fair. Mm-hmm. I want to have the same opportunity, the same access, and I'll put my God-given talents up against someone else's, and let's see what happens. And I don't want anyone tipping the field, right? And so one of the things that our platform does, it doesn't allow the field to get tipped. It says, bring yourself, bring your teammates, reach out for advisors, and then let your mind, let your gifts go to work. And by the way, this is the safest place for you to fail, to learn how to succeed. And we're going to give it to you every 45 days until you build that muscle. That's something special inside you that says, I can do this, to I know I can do this, to this is what I was born to do.
You could have saved me a lot of time since I started my career in banking, and I'm clearly not a banker. So I wish I had done that and learned it through a business challenge or two to say numbers are not my thing. Okay, so Jared, we have a question from Jared. I'm about to enter my senior year in college. What is something I should be considering that I might not be right now?
So Jared, here's the simple truth. You need to pursue opportunities. You heard John, if you were on the beginning of the call, say chase internship after internship after internship. What our platform allows you to do, and you look for other opportunities, is you need to try things. You need to try different companies on, try different problems until you get to a place where you say, that's it. Right? So if you were going into accounting and you said, I think I've always wanted to be in accounting, it was a safe opportunity for me, but why not see if there's another problem that involves the mastery of mathematics and finance that you can use that skill in? It could be a nonprofit, it could be the push to green energy, it could be a lot of different areas. But if you don't open yourself to those opportunities, that's the mess. Because there's something out there that you're supposed to be doing that you're going to find joy in every day, right? That you hear that old people say, if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And as a young person, you're like, whatever. But that's actually true, right? You just have to put yourself in front of the bus enough times.
Yeah, and I would encourage all young people, especially those that are in college. College was really, and I think still today, is a safe place to grow up. And it doesn't mean that it's defining you. If you became a mathematics major, a lot of times the joke was, if you're a math major, what are you going to do with that? Well, more math. And so, at the end of the day, that doesn't have to define you. What it does is it shows that you're able to demonstrate some grit. you're able to work through some problems, you're able to work through some social aspects of your life, and you learn a lot about yourself in college. But continue that curiosity, and that's what I would encourage Jared or anybody else, if they're in that phase, continue that curiosity. Take it to your next employer, because if they don't want that, that's probably a hallmark of an employer that you may not want to be a part of. And so take that natural curiosity, go look at their culture, go ask those questions, and if they're willing to answer those and engage those, that might be a great home for you. If they're not, that might not be the best seat for you. But don't be afraid to make some changes along the way. Just because you made a decision in a education path doesn't mean that defines the rest of your working days.
Oh, that's such good advice. That is such good advice. It's fine to pivot as you learn, right? Okay,
Absolutely.
we have a great question from Benjamin Evans. How can the student affairs side of universities benefit from your company? They want to help the student up to and also after graduation.
I think an engagement and a conversation around the moment a student arrives to campus, to do some kind of level set around what do you think you want to be, and then trying to expose the student to companies who actually do that, to vet that out quickly for them. Is that actually what you want to do? And if they say yes, then help them down that path. If it isn't, then you have to give them opportunities to then expand into other opportunities, other challenges, other companies in a way that's consistent, so that as they're growing and adding more information into their paradigm, into their blender, and they go, you know what, I'm 2 years in, I need to pivot now. They're pivoting with informed knowledge of experience. They're not pivoting to an article they read. They're not pivoting to something their parents said. They're always pivoting with good data. And John brought this up earlier. Every time we engage a young person, we give them back no less than 30 plus points of data to help them make an informed decision on where they go next. And so there's a conversation out there for us to have that makes you a dynamic resource for students as you talk to them, knowing their data, and they talk to you saying, hey, I can trust you in this conversation.
Yeah, so they could encourage people to participate in a challenge and then sit with them and look at the data that they receive from the challenge and have that mentoring conversation and continuing
Absolutely.
that real time. Love it. Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so I have to ask you, like, you've been working with young people through this for several years now. What are some of the patterns that you're seeing, and what do young people really want? What are they really looking for as they're considering careers?
Karen, I'll take a shot at that because, again, I think painting with a broad brush is dangerous, but it also paints a picture, right? It gives us a backdrop for those individuals to then shine. And so I think, number one, this next generation, which has been termed Generation Z as young people, are not that much different than these other generations that preceded them, but they are different. And so let's acknowledge that. Let's also acknowledge that the social fabric of the country is different and the economics are different, and some of these other backdrops are different as well. And so I think we should paint that picture a little bit. But the bigger thing is they're still looking for places where they can develop trust, where they can have great communication, where they can have freedom to be curious, and also freedom and flexibility. And I think those 3 or 4 things are probably hallmarks in how you're going to be able to attract young people. And then they're going to figure out their why. They're going to find their why in your organization, just like they found their why to get to you. And so if you can create a culture as a company with those pillars, if you will, around trust and communication and culture and curiosity, I think that you're going to have a really good chance of attracting those people, because that is a reflection of what those young people want in their future work as they move into their early career. And really, honestly, that's what we all want right now, right? I mean, we're of a different generation, but we still want opportunities that are going to give us, afford us those pillars.
I would just simply echo that, John. I think that was so well said. It is in however you jumble this up, right? It is purpose, it is culture, and it is trust. Whatever order you choose to put those in, this generation is going to demand that of you, right? And the sooner adults and leaders get that in their heads, the better this generation will do for the globe that we all sit on.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you. Just tell us, where can people learn more about the important work that you're doing? Or if they have a kid who they want to sign up for a challenge this summer, where do they send them?
Yeah, they can hop on social at Go Find the Why, and they can also just run to go or findthewhy.org and check things out there.
Okay, thank you so much. And we will see you all next time on Asking for a Friend.
Thanks,
Thank
Karen.
you.